All right, it works. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are Jordan.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Tanya. Is my mic on?
This is new to us.
We normally just stand in a room all by ourselves and do this. So we want to welcome you guys to Camp For You. Is my mic on? Or
Yeah.
am I just projecting? I'm a projector.
No, it's on.
Okay, perfect. Good. I got some no's, so that's the confusion. Okay, perfect. Well, welcome to Camp For You. This is Random Wednesday. Well, it feels like a random Wednesday because you never know what is going to happen.
Yeah, and considering we did a whole summer of Camp For You, which was crazy to look back on, and it feels like we just get to keep going.
And yeah, we just want to thank everyone for journeying with us throughout the summer. But, you know, we always name, like, days.
That's
Yeah.
true.
It's not Wednesday.
No,
That's right.
it's definitely not Wednesday.
So we should give this Saturday episode a special name.
Like a special Saturday.
Or like serious
Oh, yeah.
Saturday.
All right, let's just go, you know what? Silly Saturday. Let's just go
I like it.
Let's go for it.
lighten it up a little bit.
Okay, so I guess we're going to need a prize for this silly Saturday's episode to give away at the end of this episode. So I'm going to spin the wheel. Here we go. Because we gave away prizes every week
Yeah.
on Camp For You all summer long.
But just like hold up before we
Oh.
find out what our prize is.
Yeah.
They don't really look like our usual Camp For You members. Like they're a little on the older side.
That's true. Do you think they'll play Floor is Lava?
I mean, some of them look pretty agile, so I think so.
Well, the prize is a flashlight.
Whoa.
So they can maybe work their way through the new building.
That's true. In the dark.
Yeah, but so we can make an exception for prize winners on this silly Saturday. Okay. See? That's what we're telling people.
We'll try again. From the top?
We're going to start again.
Yeah, take two.
Welcome to Camp For You. Anyways, I think I saw that all of their name tags had Camp For You on them, so I guess they are crew members.
And you know what? Maybe they won't play Floor is Lava, but it's still fun to have everybody here in the new chapel. Finally, our first thing in here, and to hear about what happened during this crazy summer. Our theme this summer was Set Your Sights, so let's set our sights today on what God has done and maybe what He's still going to do.
Yeah, so we have been dreaming about having campers joining us here next summer at SABC, and we cannot wait to plan all the exciting things for next summer. But we should probably get going on the AGM, because John's looking at us over there. Whew. So we're going to call up John, actually, to maybe officially welcome everybody.
These are our hosts for the whole day, well, the whole morning. So, Charlie, did you guys introduce yourselves?
Yep.
You did. Did you guys hear it okay? Can you hear them okay? Yeah, I'm getting nodding, so that's good. My name's John. I just want to welcome you here by giving you an announcement. but then there's something afterwards, though, too. So good. So we're running, I just want you to know, we're running an indoor seated audience event. And we're also running a restaurant. So again, this is how we are able to have a meeting such as this. As some of you know, there are new restrictions that have been put down in place in Alberta. So we are asking of you to do a few things because we need to fall within their regulations. First, we asked if you would please wear masks if you are able to do so. And I recognize that some can't and some won't, and we aren't going to judge that at all. But we do have disposable masks available at the back there if you need one of your own, all right? Sitting in your chairs, if you're comfortable with your cohorts, you don't need to wear them there. Please respect physical distancing. Sit with your family in the dining hall. Again, it's a restaurant, so the restaurants, they sit them down, they sit there for the entire time, and then they leave. And that's the only way that we are able to actually function at this event. There are hand sanitizer stations throughout the building, and there's lots of places for you to wash your hands, so please feel free to do so. And we have set up our food line to function with the COVID guidelines for restaurants. Thanks for your understanding. You know, I remember a story when I was in high school. I was invited to I don't know if my parents know about this, but I was invited to a party at a hall in Pembroke. No, not Pembroke. Pine Ridge. And I went to this party, and I went in there, and it was like lots of people, and it was just, there was smoke, and it was dark, and I just felt like I didn't want to be there. It was really like I just wanted to get out of there, but I was there with some friends, but I just wanted to get out of there. And I kind of I'm reminded of that because this is how I feel in 2020. Don't you feel that way a little bit? You know, I feel like I just want to get out of here. I want to get out of 2020. I don't want to wear a mask anymore. I want to run camps. And this is where we find ourselves yet. And yet, last year, I remember the meeting that we were having. We were telling everybody about what we were going to do, and we were all excited about all the campers that we were going to get and the new building that was going to host so many more people. We were excited, and we prayed for it. And did you know what? The Lord knew that this was going to happen. And so we set plans, and the Lord guides and directs. And we hope that today is a celebration of how the Lord guided and directed and allowed us to do something not really what we really like to do, but what He called us to do. And we hope that it will direct you to the fact of His goodness and His faithfulness. So let's just pray. Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for this meeting that we get to do the business of camp. But more than that, we get to talk about how you have worked and how you are still at work. And thank you for these people, these individuals, our staff and our members and others that are here that love this place, love what you do here. And I just commit this meeting to you, everything in it. If there be conversations, that they be the right ones and the right decisions made today. And we pray these things in your name. Amen. All right, I'm going to call up our chairman, Ted Walcott. And where is he? Oh, there he is. And you got to use your own mic, Ted, so welcome.
Thank you for being here. Your presence is critical to the ministry of SABC. Most of what's going to happen this morning is going to be communicating from our people to you. That's kind of like being a board member at this operation. This camp is exceptionally well managed by superb staff. We believe that we have the best leadership here working for us that we could possibly have. Board meetings are simple for us. We have a responsibility to maintain the direction and integrity of the camp. But the people that work here actually do 99.9% of the job, and they do it very well. But they can't do it without you. Your presence today makes this camp possible. We have to do some of the drier activities when I'm here, and when my friend Doug is here, it gets a little dry. But we have to survive that. That wasn't supposed to be a joke, but he does get a little dry. We have to survive that in order for lives to be changed. Your presence here makes a difference. I was commenting to somebody that I don't know everybody's name. That's both good and bad. I want to know all your names because it's a relatively small group, but I have to stay far enough away from you. And that makes it a little harder for us to have a good conversation. I'm usually here with my wife, who hasn't been here for 3 or 4 years. We've been on a journey. It's a very, very good outcome of the journey, but my wife's cohort is very small, and she said, there's no sense in me expanding my cohort, and she's right. So she stays to a very few intimate friends and immediate family, and that's her cohort. So she's not here, but she sends you greetings. I'm on item 3, if you look at your agenda. At this time, I would like a motion to adopt the agenda. Can I see that motion? And I've got Marv Warkentine, and second. And I've got Dave Coots. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. Okay, no no's. That's carried. The minutes have been, what did we do with the minutes, John or Nikki? How do they know that we have minutes? I know I see them within a day of the meeting, and I know that the board sees them immediately. Okay, I'll tell you what. Okay, there's an administrative nightmare I shouldn't have asked about. I know every board member has seen the minutes. And I know that because we send them to them, and I know I read them, and I send them back to Nikki with my suggestions, and Nikki graciously edits them according to my requests, and she's exceptionally competent, so I appreciate that. From the board member, it's appropriate for somebody to move adoption of the minutes. I got George Budd. I need a second. Somebody who's read them. Diane Lobenstein. Are there any questions for me about this motion in view of the fact that it's very clear that some of you haven't seen them? Will those of you who are content to accept our recommendation to adopt the motion say aye? Are there any opposed to that motion? Thank you. That too is carried. I appreciate your understanding. We are a little less than perfect sometimes. George Budd. Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to ask for 4A. Is there any questions or business arising from last year's minutes? There being none, George.
I know, they're ordered and everything. Boy. Doug, just so you know, I never find what you present dry. I resonate with you 100%. And that might be a little bit because I enjoy working with numbers, but I'll tell you something. You want to see what God's done? You just listen carefully. We often see amazing things that God has done through the reports that Doug brings to us. And you're going to see that again. It's absolutely stunning. But that's not what I am up here for, so I should get to what I'm supposed to do. So it is election time. Half our board comes off and half the board comes on every year. And we have that again with 5 people we bring to you for nomination and for election. The floor is open for nominations, so I will do that for these positions. If you do so, we'll have to have an actual election, which is okay and legit. We don't want to pull a Donald Trump kind of an approach to a dictatorial approach to a democracy, but we do want you to be aware you have that ability, but we would ask that it be somebody that's here and or that you have asked ahead of time so that we actually know we can actually put them in nomination. Having said that, we bring you, and we went through each of our board members. We're in unique times right now, and we just kind of felt like continuity would be a good thing for us, given where we're at in this world at the moment. And so we went back to all of our incumbents, Ted Walcott for chair, Arnie Reimer for a board member, Darcy Johnson, Holly Steves, and Dave Coots. And each one of them said, yes, they would be more than happy to let their name stand given the unique times we are in and the need to keep that continuity for us as a board. So I bring that slate to you as our nomination and open the floor to you. If any of you have any questions or nominations on that, I am willing to entertain a motion to close nominations, but I just want to give you a second to think that through. Anyone willing to close the nomination slate? Okay. Mark? And a second? Okay, Ron? John? Ron Gartley. So with the nomination slate closed, that would be an election of all of those positions if you close it. So, all in favor of that motion, say aye. Any opposed, say no. The name is carried, and Ted, I'll turn it back to you. And by the way, for Ted and others that have let their names stand, thank you. And why don't you just give them a hand? It's a privilege to serve, but it's great to have them do this with us.
Most fun I've had all year.
I know. Well, we just want to also thank you to the board for letting your name stand and being a part of this Camp for You family. And yeah, Ted told me that I could tell him what to do, and so none of that was my fault. Just so we're clear, I didn't tell him to say any of those things. You did great, Ted, all by yourself. We're super proud of our board and very blessed to have them partnering with us. And you know what? The AGM is sort of like a Camp for You episode. We got to take care of lots of business and lots of things that happen in an AGM, and it's just like Camp for You. Lots of things have to happen in every episode of Camp for You.
That's right. Like, we were running things from like crafts.
Different challenges, many tribal melee games.
Chapels, we didn't get to have it in here, but we did lots of chapels and campfires and awesome testimonies.
We even did some cooking and baking challenges,
Oh, yeah.
which like some of us might have forgotten the importance of like flour or eggs.
Or
even
soy sauce in a cookie.
You don't put soy sauce in a cookie, Jordan.
But it
and
got
you
me second
need
place.
Flour. Yeah, it was not good.
It was good. It was best.
My cookie was awesome.
If I
It was a
remember,
cookie.
it was best tasting.
Mine
But
was really
anyway,
Jody was just being nice. Okay,
Anyways.
anyways, besides all of that, we have done some awesome cooking and baking all through this fall and through the summer and early spring with Dave's Meals. And so we're going to check out a video as to tell you a little bit of the story of how Dave's Meals has come about and some of the impact that that has had. And so we want to invite you guys to check that out, and then John and Lori will come up.
COVID has had a huge impact on our community.
Some of my writing opportunities have lessened over the last number of months, and so as I continue to evaluate the future and career options, these meals have made some nights awesome.
A meal is such a tangible expression of love.
It helps on nights when we're really busy and I've been cooking other stuff in the kitchen all day, and then we get a chance to pull out a Dave's meal and be blessed by someone else's delicious cooking.
We, over the last 6 months, have had people that have been in the hospital, have had surgeries, have lost loved ones, have had babies, have lost jobs, have had accidents, and everything kind of in between. And for us to be able to have meals on hand to bring to them has been really big.
About 4 years ago, I fell down a flight of stairs working, and I ended up getting arthritis in my thumb, which meant I needed reconstruction joint surgery in my thumb, to the point where I had the surgery, couldn't use my thumb, so that made meals extremely hard. But thanks to Dave and his meals, they were easy, they were really good, but they were easy. I could use them with one hand.
They are presented in a way as just a blessing. Many times it's totally unexpected. People are so excited to get them, and really the one that sticks out in my mind the most right now is giving to a single lady, a senior, and there was the bowl of fruit, and she said, "Oh, I haven't bought fruit for myself for so long, and I was so desiring some." She says, "Isn't it amazing how God looks after the very desires of our heart?" She went on to share those meals with all of her friends. It is making a difference in our community.
During COVID, with people being pretty hesitant to make a meal in their own home and then bring it to someone else's house, and with everything with that has been challenging. And so for us to have things available to us has been really big.
The first week of Dave's Meals is very hard. We did work hard to make everything flow as best we could, but it was a lot of just trying to organize how we were going to make it work.
So I've never been here during camp before. This was supposed to be my first summer. I've worked in other camps, so it's been very different than what I expected. I was expecting summer camp, but this is pretty much all I've known of SABC is Dave's Meals and group booking. So for me, it was very different that summer wasn't as planned, but it's been awesome. We've had a really good time. We've had really good support between our volunteers and people who have just been super willing to help us through this time with everything that's happened. And so thank you for everyone who's come and support us, who's donated time and money and done deliveries for us and just been there so that camp can not only keep running, but we've actually stayed part of the community and part of kids' lives and been able to constantly and through everything been part of their walk through a really difficult time in their life, and it's been amazing, and that's thanks to our supporters and the amazing staff and all the people who've helped, so thank you very much.
I'm going to call Lori up there. I apologize for the sound. It's a little bit. This is our first time in this room, so we're finding out some things here too. But I hope that you can hear us okay here. That was Steph at the very last part there. She's our sous chef, and of course you saw Dave. He's our executive chef there that was talking as well. But Lori's our guest services manager. Lori, we talk about shifting and pivoting a lot. And I guess my question to you is, what has that meant for you over this past year personally? And with oh, sorry. That's not the question. Oh my word. You've done, okay, this is the question. Laura, you've got a very detailed mind, and you think about things that others on our team have trouble thinking about. Take us back to March and tell us what things were going on through your mind and how you saw our staff respond to the crisis at hand.
Okay, first of all, I've never seen that video, so it choked me up a little bit. Yeah, March was pretty disheartening. Our group started to cancel like en masse right away. So a few weeks into the pandemic, we had lost the majority of our spring rentals, and it just kept going. Like, just like, who's canceling today? Well, everybody. The trend has continued. Like, our next possible rentals will be in January, but we'll talk about that later. So we had a staff meeting the week that public school was canceled, and we did some brainstorming, what we might be able to do to survive. And that's when the idea of Dave's Meals, or a Meals on Wheels program came up. It wasn't named yet. Did you ask about our staff already? I think you did. I'm just going to tell them because I have it all written down. Our staff team pivoted really fast. They embraced the meals idea very quickly. So quickly, in fact, I didn't know what was going on for a couple days. We did pricing, taste testing, menu plans, website design, photography, marketing. Everything was rolling really fast. And the staff was amazing. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them because that doesn't totally show you everything that's going on behind the scenes. Stephen, he's actually an amazing food photographer. I'll add to his many talents that he already has. And he's also a really good marketing strategist. So that Dave's Meals website you see, Jody's been helping him with it a lot too, but he's kind of the brain guy. Jordan has new resume master of the tilt skillet skills, and I don't know if he wanted those, but he's got them. Charlie is willing to do every single job you hand her, and she does it amazingly well, and she is always smiling, and that makes the rest of us keep smiling too in the kitchen. Jody has been our spreadsheet and delivery guru. She loves spreadsheets. I don't know why. And she just keeps improving our processes. We're like, why are we doing this? And she's like, it makes it better. John has done about 1,000, I'm sure, sheet pans, and he's had help from his dad and other people in the dish pit as well. We've had volunteers. Steph keeps us all organized, and Justin tends to come to our rescue when we have too many orders and we're in over our head. And Dave is our master chef, so he is definitely the glue that keeps us all together.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
In that kitchen where, like, my parents have been here a few times, but and I know Diana's helped, but they just love the spirit in the kitchen and the camaraderie there. It's pretty neat. These people that don't normally work in the kitchen.
It's been pretty great.
Yeah, you and I do deliveries as well, and are there any deliveries that kind of stood out, or some of the stories that stood out when we've been delivering the meals and on the house orders?
Yeah, so I think food is a love language for a lot of people. I know Kimball mentioned that before. The one that sticks out for me is a family that I have actually delivered to weekly since it all started. The dad in the family is he's severely immunocompromised, and because of that, he hasn't been able to work a lot in the last 7 months. Mom doesn't have like a real high-paying job either, so it's kind of a struggle. They have 4 kids, and at first they were like the people that referred them were anonymous. So the first they tried to ask me like, who's, we're like, we don't need this, it's fine, we're fine. Who's doing this? And I'm like, sorry, your people are anonymous. We can't give you that information. They just want you to be blessed. And then it just transformed, and they were just so excited every week to receive the food, and it was a blessing, and it was actually really hard for me to tell them this past week that it was the last delivery for on the house.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've had a few of those too. I know this one lady that just was actually speechless, and she just could hardly talk getting the food when she took it. She was just so appreciative. And another guy, he said, like, and this is not on the house, but this is the meals program, he says, I just love how you guys find creative ways for me to support the camp, because I love food. So, and I get to buy it from you guys. So anyways, that's been kind of neat. So looking ahead, we're looking at keeping Dave's Meals going. What are some conversations you've had with groups that have booked in the new year, and kind of what's the whole feeling with moving on and the challenges that we face?
I guess like groups are now wondering if we're opening, when we're opening, and then how we're going to keep them safe is the next question. So we're working towards, like, there's a few groups that are interested in January, more crafting, things like that they're small groups of people that are probably already cohorts and are interested in giving it a go. So we're just gonna watch the regulations and see if that's a possibility. We're also gonna try to run a vendors market here in December, so that's coming up really fast, December 4th and 5th, so we're excited about that. And then we're gonna keep on making food, so spread the word.
Yeah. Thanks, Lori, for managing that whole area, and appreciate your conversation. So.
Not so much, but we're riding for a reason.
Ride for a Reason looked really different this year, but Jordan really helped us reframe sort of as we were again grappling with having to change something else. Jordan helped us reframe our thoughts, and this is what he said. He said, instead of Ride for a Reason helping us send kids to camp, it was helping us send camp to kids. And that became Camp for You.
And so as many of you know, and as the video also showed, normally for Ride for a Reason, we gather all of our bikers together and we like set out, I don't know, I've never done it before this year, but you like ride on a trail and like everyone's together and you like stop and eat, and it's a really cool experience for our riders. And we weren't able to do that this year, but we still wanted to do Ride for a Reason. I know Abby and the rest of our Ride for You committee really worked hard on how to like make it still a possibility. And so then riders got to do it at home, so they got to choose their own routes. They got to ride with their families, so you saw the little guys biking, and there were stationary bikes, and it allowed for a lot of good things to happen.
Yeah, and like the video showed, oh man. Anyway.
Just a little choked up.
Yes,
Yeah.
every time.
Every time. But anyway, the first good thing that happened was we had the most riders that we've ever had for Ride for a Reason, which in the video it said 118, which was just really awesome.
Amazing.
And second was we had a lot of families, and our oldest rider was 95 years old, and our youngest rider was 4 years old.
And third, we had riders from all over the world. I know there was some of Stephen's family that rode in other countries, and were able to join us this year because this allowed us to have new and good things, even though it was not exactly what we wanted.
Yeah. And the last thing, we raised awareness and lots of funds for the camp, and like the video said, we raised over $70,000, which is just amazing during this time.
Hey Charlie, you said you hadn't ridden before this year, but you rode this year. So tell me, because there's other people here who did. So tell us what it was like.
Well, it's always like one of those things where I'm like, I'm gonna do Ride for a Reason someday. And it's like 160 kilometers. I can't do that. Which I think, like with all of the like training riding I did, I probably did more than that in the end. But I did 50 kilometers, which is from camp to Lomond and back. And I happened to ride mine with like the oncoming thunderstorm. And so I'm like riding, I'm like, I'm having a good time, and I'm like by Lomond, and there's like lightning in the distance, and I was like, dear Lord. And so like I didn't really stop for breaks that I had thought I would. I was just pedaling as fast as I could. I'm like, ride like the wind. And
that means something in Southern Alberta, right?
Yeah, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm just gonna pray that I'm like Elijah, where he's like outrunning the storm. I'm like, Lord, help me be Elijah and ride out the storm. So I rode really fast. And it was great. I really
she made
enjoyed
it. This is what we know, right?
I'm still here today.
That is awesome. Well, thank you, Charlie, and for all of you guys who rode and who gave to those who rode, and for being a part of Ride for a Reason in this new way and embracing the things that we're trying to make sure that camp and the gospel goes out. So thank you for that. Thanks, Charlie, and to all of you guys.
And yeah, and it helped, like we said, the funds went towards Camp for You, which I'm realizing we're running it like Camp for You, but we haven't actually said how we got to this spot where we were making videos. So, Tanya, where did we begin?
Right, that's a good question. So last spring, as we were riding this out with all of you, that wasn't supposed to be a Ride for You joke, but apparently it was. John gets way more laughs than we do, and we're trying to be funny. Okay, in the spring, as we were journeying all of this COVID stuff, and it was all new, and we were walking with the staff, and they were concerned and confused as to whether or not camp was going to happen. It was not easy, as many of your guys' lives were impact camp, as Lori talked about as well. Is that me? This is what I normally do. I try to take up the entire screen. Okay. We began walking with staff and with us at camp, trying to figure out what is this actually going to look like. And we were like, it has to happen. Camp has to happen. And as we realized it wasn't going to happen, and I had the job and the privilege and responsibility to talk to our staff and to let them know that we were not going to be able to invite them here to camp. It was probably some of the hardest weeks and days that I have experienced kind of in a ministry role over my life, in just telling staff that we had said yes to and we were excited about, and we've been through the process of discerning and assigning roles and talking about what God was going to do this summer. And having to say no after saying yes was really heartbreaking and hard. And so we journeyed with them, and as Lori and John mentioned too, this staff is amazing, and we got after what can we do instead of what can't we do. And so we began having conversations, and then we had a brainstorming day where we threw everything we could think of at the wall.
It was a great day.
It was a great day.
We had 5 whiteboards set up in the chapel and a TV, and we were writing stuff, and kind of going off that, we didn't want to just roll over and just say there was nothing. So give you an idea of where we began. We had a whole bunch of different ideas kind of on these different whiteboards. We had an idea of doing a camp in a box. We actually developed what a camp in a box would look like, where we would send it out to campers. They would have different activities and stuff like that. We kind of went that way. We talked about how can we have live interactions with campers? Is that somewhere where we want to go? So we were exploring different Zoom options and different things. And then we also were like, we want to see these people, these campers. It was one idea that we had. So we were tossing around ideas for different day camps where we would go to different places, invite campers to come, have a day of camp, and go back. So that is kind of where we were floating around in these ideas. And we've always kind of had this idea in the back of our mind of doing kind of these YouTube videos.
We think we could be famous.
Yeah,
I think we are a little bit.
A little bit. But yeah, we've always had this dream of kind of doing this in the off season as a way to kind of connect with campers and staff throughout the year. And as we were talking more and more about it, this seemed like the most realistic ones with all the guidelines, and honestly the most feasible for us to do here at the camp. So that is kind of where the idea of Camp for You was born. And we really wanted something where as we'll talk a little bit more about, like different ways that campers could still interact with us, even though we weren't able to actually have them on a call or in person. We wanted different ways we could interact, and really the goal, mission of the camp is to share the gospel with all of these kids. So that was always at the forefront of our mind of how can we still do this in this different way.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about kind of how we got here and some of the heart behind it. And yeah, interacting with kids without a parent heavy, because they were now navigating school at that point. And so that's a little of the behind the scenes of how we got here. So we want to share with you guys, we're not sure how many of you guys were actual crew members this summer and watched us play this summer, but we want to share with you a little bit of the fun that we had and some of our exciting and most favorite things that we did. So what was your guys' favorites? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Before I say mine, I'm just going to explain that like our videos each had like 3 to 5 different segments in them. And so then we had like Monday morning always had the same segments, Monday afternoon always had the same segments, Wednesday, Friday morning, Friday afternoon.
Wednesdays were pretty random though.
They were kind of whatever didn't fit in a category, we put on Wednesday.
And we still wanted to do it. We just did it on Random Wednesday, which gave us lots of freedom. Yeah.
And so some of like my favorite segments was story time, which like it was a twofold. We had testimony shared by our Fort cohort that was here in the summer. They shared what God had been doing in their lives. And then the other fold of it was Grandpappy Bush and Nana Whippoorwill, who might resemble an older version of Jordan and I.
Maybe.
But they're definitely Fort people. And old.
And had really strange accents that I couldn't quite place. I don't know.
They're flexible accents.
But they would read stories to the kids out of the Jesus Storybook Bible, which had a little bit of commentary alongside with it. But always fun, always entertaining. There may have been laughter because you just didn't know what was coming out of Grandpappy's mouth.
Or Nana's.
Yeah, and to tag on to that, Charlie, we had the opportunity at our church to give away a Jesus Storybook Bible, and when we had dropped that Bible off to this little girl, she was like just dancing, and she was like, oh, now I can read along with Grandpappy Bush and Nana Whippoorwill, and it was just like, it was that sense that everything we were doing was making impact. Camp was going out, and the gospel was being heard, and Bibles were being read, and so that was one of, so thank you for being ridiculous.
It's hidden my job description, I think. Program assistant. And then we also did campfire songs, which like Jordan would always build us a nice big campfire, and then we would sing songs and hope that the camera like didn't fall, or like that we didn't have to redo it. And then as the Fort cohort came for the summer months, we were able to have more people, and it wasn't just Jordan and I singing.
Yeah, those first
Couple
you guys
weeks.
had good energy. It was just hard to just keep going. So we
Yeah.
were grateful when that happened. Yeah, we'll talk a little more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about that first. Actually, is the Fort cohort that Charlie has mentioned. We actually got 8 grants from the government this summer, and we were able to invite 8 of those staff that we had originally had to say yes to, then no to. Got to say yes to 8 and invited them to join us this summer, and they did a number of different things, helped with grounds and Dave's Meals, and joined us in the Camp for You, giving us new energy and building up our teams for challenges and stuff like that. And so that was a really great kind of boost, and they worked on some other camp initiatives as well this summer. One of my favorite things that I've already mentioned about Camp for You was Random Wednesdays. Truly, we did anything that we wanted, that somebody dreamed up and schemed and thought we could probably make that happen. And so literally those introductions, like we would write a script, sort of like we're sort of following right now, which is sort of what Random Wednesdays were, where we just sort of like, this is what we should maybe plan for, and then we would just see how it went. And we got a lot of feedback from kids and families and staff that really just loved the chaos of Wednesdays. It felt like a Wednesday at camp, real life camp, where it would do this, and then the wind would come, and then you'd get a lightning storm, and we'd have to like, what could we do right now? And so that was sort of one of those ways where it felt like a real camp, because we just made it up a little bit, so which was really fun. Yeah.
And a couple of my favorites. It's not only because I won it all, but the tribal melee challenges.
Yeah,
So-
we'd like a recount, I think. There's like a recount thing happening in the world.
I'm pretty sure there was some sort of rigging. I'm sure we're going to
I know.
find votes under Jordan's bed.
Yeah,
in his house
I
or
don't know.
something.
No, right now is not a good time for counting anywhere in the world. But anyway.
All right, you won. Congratulations.
Yes.
Can I take your
No
hand?
handshakes today.
Yeah. Anyway, with the tribal melee challenges, what happened at the beginning, it was the 3 of us. This happens every summer at the fort. All the campers are divided into kind of teams, and as they do games and stuff, they get points and different challenges and stuff, and it adds on to their tribal melee score, and whoever has the most points at the end of the week wins the Fort Cup, and then second place gets the Teepee Cup, and third place gets the Golf Cup. So we made our teams, and we did many different challenges, and as the 8 came, we actually drafted them onto our teams.
Such a fun day.
And that was a lot of fun. And they just expanded, and we did so many crazy things that I've always kind of dreamed of doing, and kind of felt like Dude Perfect sometimes. That just felt good for me.
Nobody here knows who Dude Perfect is.
I know. I just thought I'd say it. That was, but
yeah.
And alongside of that, the challenges that we set out for the kids was also something that I really enjoyed. So in almost every episode throughout the week, we would send challenges home to the kids. They're kind of loosely based off of our tribal melee challenges, where if we did something with basketball, they needed to do like a trick shot or something like that.
Yeah.
And we gave them stuff to do at home that they could then send videos back to us, and we would put it in a highlight video at the end of the week. And just sending out those challenges the first week, we had no idea what to expect, but as the stuff came in, the footage from the kids, it was really cool to see that they were fully participating at home, which was just really encouraging for us.
Yeah, because we filmed those first couple of weeks episodes. We did 5 episodes a week, and we filmed those a few weeks before this thing went live. And so that first time that we filmed a Friday episode, we were like, hey, thanks everybody for sending your videos in. It's super awesome. Thanks for being a part of this week. Turn the camera off. We're like, man, I hope somebody watches.
and
it was
sends in a video.
Yeah.
And
And
we were
so,
like, who could we like email, be like, can you send us a video?
yeah. So anyways, we were so excited when those things came in and kids just bought in to the crazy that we were doing here and did their version of it and shared with us in that, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah. And then we also, because we just love seeing people's faces, interacting with people as close as possible. And so we came up with, we actually had like 3-ish events that we called Get Camped, where it was a piece of our planning where we're like, maybe we could go into neighborhoods, we could run camp with kids, and then we're like, that's crazy. We're not that crazy. And so then we came up with a couple of events that will explain kind of what they did. So a week ago today, it's not quite 4, but we ran a drive-through pumpkin festival here on site. And so it was kind of like, I had gone to a food truck drive-through in Lethbridge in the summer, and Jordan had watched a video of like this scary Halloween drive-through in Florida, and then we were like, we could do that here and just not call it Halloween, because we don't really want to focus on like some of those scary things that are out there, but we wanted to just invite people in to celebrate. People were talking about in August like what they were doing for trick-or-treating and things like that, and so we had 8 different stations that people drove on. They were able to do a couple of camp activities. They were able to do a couple of carnival activities. They were invited to come dressed up. We, as a staff who volunteered, dressed up, and then we handed out candy safely to the people who came out, and we just had a really fun time. We were like, 48 cars! We are going 4 to 5 hours long. It was not that big. We had like 19 cars, which ended up being 86 people come on site with their kids, with their neighborhood kids who were like a part of their cohort, and it was just really special to have them on site.
Yeah, we heard from one couple of families that it was the best Halloween they've ever had as a family, because they were just together and got to experience that. So that was awesome. These guys did a ton of work to put that on. The very first Get Camped event was a worship event, and so we were able to worship together at that time. Will and Amy are there at the back. They're part of the 8 this summer and part of the Flex program, which we'll talk about as well. But we set it up outside, had this big grid where people could stand and sing safely together, and it was just an amazing thing to hear worship happening on this site and to hear it float across the lake and to just really give God the glory, even though things weren't as we thought.
Yeah. And the last kind of event that we did a pop-up kind of swag shop in Lethbridge. And what that event kind of looked like, we had an online store where people could buy different swag items here at the camp. And we thought of it, instead of mailing it, maybe we'll set up a little shop where they could come and pick their stuff up. And we kind of expanded on that, where we ran a couple activities, the coffee trailer was there, and just so people could have a little taste of what camp was like. And for myself, we brought archery actually and cleaned everything after everyone went. It was just a really good kind of, taste of camp, getting to see people do activities, which is what I love to do, and got to run something like that. So just got a little bit of that camp flavor, which was really, really fun.
Yeah. It was really good to like see the staff who weren't able to be here on site. And we were a little famous that night. There were a couple of little girls who came with their dad, and I'm like chatting with somebody, and then I just see these people looking at me, and I'm like, I don't know them. Hi. And they're like,
are those the Camp for You
people?
They're like, so we were like, yes.
We really love your videos, and we just really wanted to meet you. And I was like, thanks.
Yeah. So again, like they gave us camp in those moments, and so we got a real sense that God was at work in all that we were doing. As we're kind of wrapping up some of the Camp for You information and just sharing it with you, chapels and the testimonies were a huge part. And so our theme this year was Set Your Sights. So we invited campers and families to set their sights on the Lord regardless of what was happening, and just really embrace a lot of memory verses that helped you kind of think about good things. Philippians 4 verse 8, Colossians 3:12. Yep, okay, thanks. It's been a long time since I memorized those memory verses. So it was just a really incredible thing, and we heard from one parent that they emailed us back and just said those songs and memory verses that were in chapels and around the campfire, and the memory verses, they are going to school with them every day. They're a part of what they're living out here in the fall. And so, and that's what we pray for when kids come here, is that camp and the gospel and Jesus goes home with them. And so that was our heart with sending Camp For You home as well. And it lives on YouTube, so it's not done. God is not done with Camp For You this year. So we want to wrap up with a little chat about the final week of camp. It was
huge.
Yeah.
It was exhausting.
It was. We were tired. Yeah. We have a game here called Schmuck, and if you've ever been to camp, it's basically a staff hide. And then when you get found, that camper gets to schmuck you in the face with a shaving cream. And so we did it like super manhunt style, so there was videos and people running after everybody else, and it was a wild, wild day. Yeah.
It was so much fun.
It was.
And in the last week, we also showed our Captain Good Guy episode. We were able to pull that off during the summer as well, which was crazy. Just, yeah, something that the campers love, and we kind of love to do too. So.
Yeah.
We did enjoy it a lot.
Jordan, do you want to just share the last bit before we show the video of what are some of the, I'm not really a numbers person, you
made
keep
a spreadsheet.
He loves spreadsheets.
I'm like, it said stats, and I'm like, that's not me.
Okay,
Yep.
so do that, and then we're going to roll the video from the summer.
Yeah, so I only have 2 that I remembered. So all of the videos, I think we put out 45 videos over the entire summer, which each video was like between half an hour and 45 minutes long. So if you add that up, that's a lot of footage that we put out. Each video, I think, averaged a little over 500 views for a total of just about 31,000 views on all of the videos throughout the summer, which blows our mind. That's just
really does.
so many. And we had a Camp For You crew that the kids could sign up for. They got one of these t-shirts and kind of information about that. And we had
They could win prizes.
And they could win prizes, that's right. And we had 98 kids sign up for our Camp For You crew, which was just
pretty great.
Really, really awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for, to Dave's Meal, Ride For A Reason, and all of that, for how that made that happen. So here is a little peek into what that looked like. This spring, as we were anticipating filling this brand new chapel with campers to hear the gospel, being down at the beach, playing in the sand and the water, singing songs and doing crazy skits around the campfire, we could not believe it when we began to understand that camp was not going to happen live at SABC in summer 2020.
Overnight camps will remain closed.
Give up too soon. Jesus cares for every sparrow. I know He cares for you. Oh, please don't give up too soon.
I felt pretty numb. Like I didn't really feel much. It kind of seemed like another disappointment to a long list of disappointments already.
As time slowly went on, I had to work with these feelings. I was obviously sad and kind of disappointed that summer camp wasn't going to happen, but I knew that some way we were going to do something to make sure that we could share the gospel with the kids.
As a program team, we have talked about probably for the last year or two of doing like a YouTube video series so that we can connect with campers.
Camp For You was born out of this amazing team and their desire to make sure that camp was going to happen no matter what. Lots of ideas like Camp in a Box and a YouTube series, and this is where Camp For You was born, but truly started in the hearts of this team and their desire to make sure that camp and the mission of SABC went out and happened this summer.
My dream finally came true. liked on Camp For You got to participate in the games. I like it, the popsicle one. I like Tribal Man. Me too.
Yeah?
Me too.
We watched it in our garage.
Camping in the mountains, at the lake,
In the van.
Out in our barn.
at the lunch table.
We watched it lots of places.
God was truly at work at SABC this summer in amazing ways here in our staff as we got to teach memory verses and work together in new ways.
God really showed me the importance of community, just in sharing our testimonies together and praying together and just chatting with each other, and especially even in eating meals together. That became something, for me at least, that was so valuable.
And this summer I was able to, for the first time, share parts of my past that had become sources of shame and pain for me. And I got to experience God's grace and healing through sharing those stories.
We had to trust that God was actually going to have people watch them and have kids submit stuff for the highlight video, and He was faithful, and they did send in so many pictures and videos, and it was so fun to watch them do the things that we wanted.
I think the first time I saw footage come in, I was mostly surprised that people were really going to do these challenges, and just how many people were watching the videos, that it wasn't just like 2 or 3 little families that watched the videos 100 different times, that there was just so many different people watching the videos, and that what we were doing was going to impact so many different people.
It was just amazing to see that and to hear them learn memory verses and the impact that will have on their lives.
For God so loved the world that He sent His one and only Son.
Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Philippians 4 verse 8.
So I've watched that now 3 times, and yeah, I get to talk after this one. It was a hard and really good summer, and so we again want to say thank you to camp and to the board and to all of those that just said, yeah, give it a shot, and we got to do that, which was pretty great. So, yeah.
And yeah, there is still so much to come. So next summer, if you haven't heard, our theme is under construction, and it'll be fun to fill this new construction with campers in it. With campers, and I know everyone is looking forward to how wonderful that will be to have everyone here. And seems fitting, hey, John, under construction, we've kind of been there for a while, but John and John are going to come up and tell us more about what's been going on with the building and stuff. Nope, you just come.
I just come?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. That was a lot of work, like a ton of work. And they talk about the videos that they see live. I mean, they did that weeks beforehand, some of them. So, I mean, for them to, and it's funny, they get progressively better. So if you get a chance to look at them, they're amazing. My favorite one was the schmuck one. Oh, it was so good. It was like you were in The Amazing Race or like Survivor or something like that. It's really good. You'd enjoy it. But anyways, John. This is John Keller. He is our property manager. Can you come this way, or are you shy?
Yeah, very.
Is that better, Ted? The closer the better. Okay. Sorry, I tend to go like this, so. Thanks for telling me that. John, we talk about pivoting a lot. This is the question I asked Lori, but it's actually your question. We talk about pivoting a lot. How is that? What does that mean for you in your personal life as well as your role here at the camp?
Well, like John said, everybody's been pivoting a little and just changing things up. So for these guys, it looked like doing something different here. For Barry and I, actually, it has looked like doing something different not here. So early on, while we explored how to make money differently, we also identified the need to spend less, and part of that was we kind of agreed we needed to find a way to reduce wages. So it was actually quite amazing. I made like one phone call, and we had some work off the camp, and so that's what Barry and I did. We left. We've been working 1 day a week here on site, and the rest of the time we've been making money other ways. And so it was very interesting, actually, and we count it such a blessing in the middle of this time where everybody's losing jobs and the work is scarce. We made one phone call and we had just the right kind of work for just the right period of time, 10 minutes away. Like, we just kind of blew our mind. So we just count that a real blessing.
We're trying to get rid of you in different ways, but this seemed to work okay. No.
COVID is a big scam. John did it to get rid of me and Barry. It's all John.
It's interesting talking to other camps across Canada. They pivoted and they just did maintenance projects, and they had all their kitchen staff and they had all their program team, and all they did was do painting jobs and cut down trees and stack their firewood. So we kind of went a different direction, but I think you and I would agree it was a win-win-win, but we missed you around here for sure, and Barry as well. And I think I'm putting words in your mouth, but I think you miss being here as well, right?
Yeah, I miss most people here, you bet.
Okay. John, this building is amazing. We're in it right now. You've been part of it from the very beginning, helping design it. I mean, we all have, but you've been intimately involved. You've been intimately involved in the process as well. So even the different spaces, how big they are, and you've been there from the beginning. And so what about this building really, really excites you? Like, what do you like about this building?
Well, it's hard to just narrow it down, but I think if I were to kind of pick something out of that, I think that we have spaces designed to function really well for our needs. I think that we designed some spaces that don't just meet the needs right now, they address needs that are coming. I think that it's a really good balance of letting the needs of camp drive what goes in the building, but also balancing a little bit how it functions with rentals. So I'm going to say function a lot. I think that probably tells you a little bit about me. I like the function of the building, and I hope that's proven to be that it proves to function well in the years to come. But that's one thing I really like. If I talk about what excites me about this building, I can't get past envisioning kids in it too. I'm just so excited to see it function through camp. I'm so excited to see it filled with groups and our ministry to them as well. I can't wait to see it full.
Yeah, right on. It's a very well-built building, and we really appreciate your involvement in that. Silveridge is leaving here. They actually took their shack away here on Thursday, and they just wrapped things up. They've got a few more things to do, but we have responsibility as well of some things that we need to do that was not within their scope. So do you want to comment on some of those things and how people can maybe get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So really the outside has left us with some stuff we need to tidy up, and that was always the plan, was that we were going to deal with the landscaping outside after. So whether that's irrigation or the top landscaping, we've got some hardscape we'd like to do, some rock and some patios. We've got all kinds of things outside that we know are going to happen in stages in the future. What we would love to see is a big push in the spring. Barry and I are going to come back and start prepping for that here in the new year. And so anything landscaping, dirt work, irrigation, that's going to be the big push, not only here around this building, but over in the new cabin circle as well, around that wash house. So
And we're going to try and do it with no money, right?
Sorry?
We're going to try to do it with no money.
Yeah, 0.
Yeah.
Maybe? Can we spend a little?
We're going to try.
Okay.
We need some help. And we also need to do some stuff with sound in here. I know Marv's going to help us with that a little bit, and there's just a few other things too. But man, it is so fun to be in here. And John, I really appreciate your help with all the work, all that you do around here. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to invite Doug Munton up here. He's our treasurer, and he's going to present the financial reports. Doug's special. He gets his own mic. Please.
So who ever thought when we were here a year ago that we'd be sitting here a year later, some of us with masks on, the country and economy pretty much shut down, and doesn't seem to be a solution yet. But as we just heard, and I'm not so sure I'm going to keep it together. As we heard about Ride for a Reason, as we heard those three, in my mind, young people explain what went on this summer, I mean, it's totally of God. I mean, we see how our governments fumble and mess up absolutely everything they touch. But yet we come here and such a God thing. I'm overwhelmed, as you can see. But I guess I got to do what I have to do. I apologize. We've had some very, I don't know if the word is difficult, but some very anxious moments and discussions at the board level as to how we would see this through. You know that the big part of our budget is summer camp rentals, or summer camp registrations and then rentals. And when that was all taken away, the alarm bells went off. And besides that, we were in the middle, or we were supposed to be getting to the end, but we were barely in the middle of the construction. But again, you know, I think John reminds us every board meeting of what a wonderful staff he has. And I think that's so evident this morning that we are so blessed. And being in business a bit, it's so much about the people. So much about the people. And you, as membership of Southern Alberta Bible Camp, you can be on your knees this very evening thanking God for the people He has brought here. They are so amazing, every last one of them. Sorry. I'm not just too sure how to attack this this morning, but I think you have a package entitled the financial statements, and we need to look at that. The second page is the auditor's report, and I just draw your attention to the second paragraph there. The auditor, in our opinion, he says, accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the organization as at September 30th and the results of its operations and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. One thing all these numbers and everything, they're important, but go to the very first page of the notes to the financial statements. Just flip by the numbers and you get to a page called Notes to the Financial Statements. And let's just read through the purpose of the organization. I mean, we have all these numbers and we have assets and we have dollars and cents and all the rest of it, but what are we about? The purpose of the organization. Southern Alberta Bible Camp is a registered charity incorporated under the Societies Act of the Province of Alberta as a not-for-profit organization and is exempt from income tax. The purposes of SABC are as stated in its vision and mission statement as follows. The vision of SABC is to see lives transformed by God through the gospel of Jesus Christ. SABC is a youth-focused Christian camp whose purpose is to challenge, encourage, and inspire campers spiritually and physically to help equip them for life and to develop Christian leadership in young adults. I look at a lot of financial statements over a year. I don't see this. This is what we're about. Okay, back to, what did you call this stuff, Ted? Dry? It's kind of...
For most of us.
Anyway, go to the statement of financial position, and I'll try to explain this. Gets a little busy with these different funds that we have, but with not-for-profits, you have different funds that the monies are allocated to and expended from. And we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 funds across the top there. So our position at the end of our fiscal year, which is September 30th, and the general fund is our operations fund. That's our wages that we spend, our registrations that we receive, and so forth and so forth and so on. At the end of the year, we had short-term investments, and you can look at some details when it says a note there. In the general fund of $16,000, we had some receivables of $66,560. Good old GST, we get some of that back. We had some inventory on hand, and we had prepaid expenses, primarily insurance. So we had total current assets of $229,000. Prepaid expenses, I'm just going to explain that. In our negotiations with Little Bow Resort, from which we get our water, our drinking water and water for use in the kitchen and so forth, they had to do a big rebuild or revamping of their water system. And in light of that, they proposed to us that our water bill would go to almost $11 per cubic meter. And part of that was for the capital part of the water plant. So we sat down with them, and they had their calculation how they got to that number. But over the term of the agreement, it would likely depending on water usage, but if our water usage was sort of normal, we would have been spending upwards over $600,000 over a period of time. So what we decided to do was to pay up front that capital portion, and that decreased our usage number from 11 to 494. So it cut it in half, and we had to pay up front for the capital part, and that is good for the next at least 25 years. Now there could be some expenses along the way, as you know, these things need fixing and so forth, but we just thought it was good business to pay up front rather than over the term a big number, like it was over I think it was $665,000 it would have come to. So that's what that prepaid expense is. Then in the operating fund, there's a due from the capital fund of $317,000. A couple of other little due froms, long-term investments of $4,061. That's credit union shares primarily. So our total assets in the general fund, $782,000. The liability side, we had some checks that hadn't cleared the bank yet, some accounts payable, unearned income. That's individuals have left money on deposit for future camp and for rentals, so that's not earned. We've got the money, but it's not earned. And then as well, we received a grant from the government to provide meals to people of consequence of COVID, and that hasn't all been earned out either. The general fund has got monies in their coffers from the Thomson Royer Fund, the All Aboard Fund, so they, in essence, owe that money over to those funds. And then long-term debt in the general fund, I don't know if you follow all the government programs out there. You can try to follow them, but they're about near impossible to follow. But anyway, one of the programs was the government granted any entity, primarily a $40,000 loan with no interest, and after 3 years, you pay back only $30,000. So that's what that $40,000 is. We received a loan from the government for $40,000. We don't have to pay any interest on it, and in 3 years we pay back $30,000. Now there's some indication that they're going to increase that to $60,000. I'm not sure of all the rules and regulations to that, but if that's available, we would take advantage of that. So our balance in the general fund, our assets over our liabilities are in the amount of $337,295. The Thomson Royer CCB and the Munton Endowment Fund, those are just funds that people have donated money to, and the earnings on those are used to help with looking after summer employment at camp. And there's some stipulations on those funds as to they have to go to university or college, and there's matching grants and everything else. So All Aboard, you heard about, All Aboard is Ride for a Reason. And that's just so you know, All Aboard is Ride for a Reason. So in the All Aboard Fund, you see, and we haven't really allocated that money anywhere, but there's $132,050 in that All Aboard Fund. Earnings from Ride for a Reason, and in years past, if there were kids that couldn't afford to pay to come to camp, then All Aboard would take money out of the All Aboard Fund and use that money so the kids could come to camp. Now in the capital fund, and we'll delve into that a little more in detail, but just so you know, at the end of September 2020, We had $1,681 on deposit in the capital fund. We had a payable at the end of the year of $374,000, which primarily is the holdback on the construction. And then we have a mortgage, and I will speak to that in more detail as well, but in January we will repay $400,000 of that mortgage, so that's shown as a current liability. And then, if you remember, we had a receivable in the general fund of $317, and that shows up as a liability there of $317. And then the total mortgage is in the amount of $2 million, so the 1.6 would be remaining after we make the January payment to the mortgage holder. So in the capital fund, we do have a deficit of $1,010,000. Capital assets, another thing that came to fruition this year. Arnie and John have been working for how many years on this water right thing? At least 7 years. 7 years we've been working on water rights and getting it right. And an individual had indicated they were going to donate some water rights to us, but this is environment stuff and all that. I mean, takes a long time. We wouldn't think it would take 7 years, but it took 7 years. But this year, those water rights were given to Southern Alberta Bible Camp, and they have a value of $36,000. So that shows up on the books as water rights that we in fact own. And it, what is that, 20 acre feet, John? Or yeah, 20 acre feet of water that we're allowed to take from the dam. And then the capital assets, you can check note 5. In total, there's about close to $17 million of assets that we have acquired over the years, and then you take the accumulated depreciation from that, and we have a net book value of $11,721. Okay, over on operations. Maybe, is there any questions on the statement of financial position before we move on? Okay, operations. You know, when all this happened, and you're going to lose over, well, about $1 million of revenue, like the sort of business guy in me, I'm kind of shaking in my boots. But God is in control. It's not any one of us, or we kind of think John can walk on water, but I think he's even maybe not that great, but God is in control. And just go to the bottom line of that general column, and we come positive this year by $12,806. With all the, everything that's out there, we were positive. Now, when you compare the actual numbers to the budgeted column on the left there, you know, there's some of them that just don't line up, and you'll understand why. But I'd just like to draw your attention to a few in particular. Donations, we had budgeted to the general fund $240,000. We received $382,784. Praise the Lord. Amen. And then this Dave's Meals thing. Did you ever imagine that that could be the number? $274,829 that little kitchen and staff put out. That's dollars in our bank account. It's like the thing that impressed me when these other folks are up here is the thinking outside the box. I mean, we could have just folded our tent and maybe did a little painting and trimmed up the odd tree, but no way. These guys, hey, let's do Dave's Meals. This $275,000 later. It's unbelievable. And then Camp for You during the summer, and like, who would have ever thought? Anyway, I'm off topic. And then government grants. The government come out with all these different wage programs and so forth and so on, and we monitored them very, very carefully. And we realized $173,500 from government grants. And that's primarily if your revenues decreased by 75%, then you were eligible, or by 30%, sorry, you were eligible for 75% of the wages. And as that went on, it gets more and more complicated how you calculate that thing. And after a while, I just threw up my hands and said to my partner in my accounting firm, you look after this because it's beyond me. Like, it is unbelievable. And the government come with calculations and spreadsheets. And anyway, we realized $173,000 from government grants. So total revenues of $1,111,569 in the general fund. And you can see the expenses there. I don't know if I need to speak to any of them. I think I would mention, though, that our food cost has been pretty well looked after, and that is from some very diligent work in the kitchen, plus there's been some foods donated to assist with Dave's Meals. One thing that I know John and Tanya and all the rest of them, if you go down about 3/4 in that column, wages, summer staff. No camp, no summer wages. Sad. The few staff that they did have during the summer is under government sponsored wages. We spent $33,600, and if you look above, well, the government grants would be in with all the other government grants. Okay, that's the general fund. Then there's the endowment funds. They're kind of on a break-even basis as we go along. All aboard, and they indicated $70,000, but we received donations for all aboard of $26,000, and then they raised through the fundraiser $79,000. So it was actually $106,607 that we realized in the all aboard fund. Again, amazing. There's a few expenses that comes off of that, but for the year, we were positive by $102,000. I'm going to leave the capital fund, and we'll look at that on a different sheet of paper. It's a little bit easier to understand. But just quickly, we received $848,000 in donations, some interest, rent on the Champion House, interest on the long-term debt, expenses is in property taxes on the Champion House. So we showed a positive of 850,620 in the capital fund. I don't want to take up a whole bunch of time, and I think the rest you can kind of read. You can look over the notes to the financial statements. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them. Maybe if we just look quickly at, need the pages numbered, sorry. Go to note 8 at the third page from the back, second page. Everybody find it? Note 8, just a note there on the that ATB Financial Canada Emergency Business Account loan. That's the one I referred to, the $40,000. And then, again, I should maybe just say a word here. As we're building, we're negotiating with the Trust Foundation and the Christian Credit Union in Lethbridge, because it looked like we were going to need some funding. So we were talking with them about a mortgage loan. And then an individual, a supporter of Southern Alberta Bible Camp, came forth and said, how about if I lend the camp that money? And to be really, really honest, at the board level, there were some reservations, but we did it on a totally commercial basis. All the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and it's it couldn't be more commercially sound. And the interest that we agreed to was prime less a half. So any of you who borrow money, not very often I see borrowings at prime less a half. And the terms of the loan are over repayment over 5 years, but written in the agreement as well, and totally understood between us. If in the third year or whatever the donations don't come in to cover that payment, he is fine with taking whatever comes in and leaving the balance for a further repayment plan. So that's what that note kind of explains there. And again, if you have any questions, but I just think that's a pretty important part of it all. And I wanted to make sure that you saw that. So that's the financial statements. I think just as an aside of that auditor's report, because we'll want a motion to accept that, but just for information purposes, if we could go to the next slide there. I just wanted to make a little summary here. And this is what we've spent in the last 4 or 5 years. And if you recall, 4 or 5 years ago, we embarked on Vision 75. And that was sort of a in phases plan to do the things outlined there. So in 2016, we did a kind of an overhaul and building and so forth at the fort, and about $130,000 went into that. Fiscal 2016 as well, and into 2017, we built the sixplex right over here, and the total cost on that come in at $782,029. In 2017, we had to do some upgrades to the Travers Lodge. That was $120,529. And then we got into the Heritage Hall building here in fiscal 2019. We expended $626,632. And then, where's my secretary? My dear wife. Should be 2020. not 2019. I probably wrote 2019. She just types what I write, so I apologize. For 2020, we've expended $2,903,688. So in those years, our total expenditures, $4,562,878. Then on the next slide, our revenues on the donation side in 2016, and this is just to the capital fund, 419,207, 2017, 545, and so on and so forth. So we've received in donations 3,130,072. So I just wanted to kind of add that to the financial statements, and then as well, over and above that I put up on the screen, our churches and individuals have come alongside, and we've put $148,000 into cabins and $286,000 into the wash house. And that's been covered by donations over and above that pretty well. And then, over and above that, we had these guys thinking outside the box again, and I kind of wondered, what in the world are they thinking about? But they like to play hockey and this and that, so they do this Travers Classic deal, and they raised $54,000 playing a couple of little hockey tournaments, and we've spent about $35,000 of that on equipment that is very well received, I would say. John? So, I don't know what I'm trying to say, except God has his hand upon this place. The numbers are mind-boggling. Dave's Meals, $275,000. Donations to the Capital Fund, over $700,000, 2 years in a row. And the staff he brings to us, and it's anyway, for an old guy, this is pretty exciting. And I just appreciate so much the staff and the board. I count it such a privilege to be able to serve. So if we could have a motion to accept the auditor's report, and then when we get into the budget, I'll be able to explain a little bit better the capital situation, so you're clear on that.
Doug's motion is clear to accept the financial report from the auditors as presented. That's Doug's motion. Who's second? I got Gunther Lobenstein. There's probably only one Gunther here. I want you to listen. I'm going to tell you how to vote affirmative. If you're in favor of this motion, I want to hear you say, "Thanks be to God." All in favor? Numbers are dry. When they point us to Almighty God, they're exciting and they're humbling. Doug, thank you for presenting well, and the capital budget. Oh, actually, both budgets, and we'll adopt the budgets together.
Okay, you got one sheet of paper with the capital budget on one side and the operating budget on the other. But let's look at the capital budget because it's kind of fresh in our minds. And you have the columns there proposed and so forth, but actually for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2020, you'll see the donations there of $765,000 for Vision 75, and then there's a few other donations that came in, some interest earned, and then on some of the investments we hold to earn interest, there was a little bit of a decrease in value on those, but we haven't sold them. They're preferred shares, primarily in banks, and we get a 4 or 5% return on those investments. So our income there is $864,748. And then the expenditures, the Kubota equipment goes back to the Travers Classic. The water rights, $36,000. That's the rights that were given to us. It shows as an expenditure, but if you look above, we have donations, gift in kind, GIK, of $42,000. So in that $42,000 is the $36,000 of water rights and $6,000 of, what was that, John? Some sort of equipment, iron bending equipment. Yeah. It's amazing what you get given. And then I guess the big thing is Heritage Hall. If you look under 2019, we spent $609, and so far to date, we've spent $2,764,861. Furniture and fixtures, we've spent $138. So we've spent almost $3 million during the year. So that left us expenses over income of $2,128,000. So in our capital fund for 2020, just go down. We started the year, we had $1,118,939 in that fund. We overexpended by $2,128,000. So that's why, if you remember on the balance sheet, we have a deficit in our capital fund of $1,010,001. So it's a little hard to envision or whatever, but if you remember in the capital fund, we have $1,600,000 in cash, and then we have some liabilities in that fund. That $1,600,000 will be used to finish off paying for the construction, which we're estimating to be about $310,000, and furniture and fixtures of $130,000, and then there's the holdback to pay, and then we've set aside monies so that we can pay on January the $400,000 principal payment. So just so you know, the 1.6 isn't money to send John and my dear daughter to Hawaii or anything. The 1.6 is very much earmarked, and there's a place very soon where that money is going to go. So in the next year for fiscal 2021, we're budgeting to receive $500,000 in donations to the capital fund, Champion House rental, some interest, and then we have to pay $310 and about $310, $130 and some interest, so we'll be positive in the capital fund for fiscal 2021. On the operating side, on the back side, and to be really, really honest, this budget represents running 50% summer camp. And we're going to have to be very nimble with this budget. We may be able to run 100% camp, or we may not be able to run summer camp again at all. So it all depends what transpires here in the next while. But this budget is based on running some rentals and 50% camp. And I don't know if John wants to expound on that, but this is what the budget represents. Donations raised by summer staff, we are going to kind of work on that a little bit more, and we're anticipating, if summer camp happens, $200,000. Because the thing is, if we run even a 50% summer camp, you almost need 100% staffing. And it's going to be somewhat difficult, because if things are the way they are, we're going to have so many RCMP's here for somebody. Anyway, sorry. So, you know, to run even a 50% camp, and if we are in the situation we're in, it's going to take a whole lot of work to get that done. So you're going to need nearly 100% of the staff, so to speak. So anyway, but when those staff come, considering everything, we're feeling we have to do more in sort of self-fundraising for those staff. That's why the 200. Donations general, $350. And then the other items there are as presented. Meals, we're allowing Dave to back off just a little bit, but not that much. 200,000. And then the expenditures are, as you see, total of $1.4 million. So if everything came in as we budgeted, which that would be something in itself, but we're expecting a $29,000 surplus for 2021.
Doug's first motion is to adopt the capital budget as presented. Is there a second for Doug's motion? Jason Laturnis. Names are tough even when I know them. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. That too is carried. Was that the capital budget?
Yes, sir.
Doug also has a motion to adopt the operating budget as presented. Is there a second? And I got Gunther. Thank you, Gunther. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. And that too is carried. Doug, are you done or do you still have more?
Well, no, I'm done, but I just want to say, like, this isn't simple stuff. And when you start doing this fund accounting, it's 10 times more difficult to sort of follow and understand. So if you have any questions whatsoever, we don't want anything to be not understood or not known or whatever. I'm just, you know, we want to be very, very transparent. And as a board, we are humbled and unbelievably grateful for the support we get from throughout our constituency. And to God be the glory.
So are we giving a prize away or what are we doing? Because I can go get it. I didn't bring it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we have flashlights around, but like, the financial budget looked okay, but it is like a little touch and go, so we better not give anything away.
So you know what, let's just make everyone winners and they donate to the program budget.
Yeah!
There we go.
Okay, I like this game so far. So.
And free lunch.
Right, that's awesome. Okay, crew, what kind of randomness do we have planned for the future?
Oh, we could build another fort.
We could. Blanket forts are a hit. They were a hit camp for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we shouldn't build another fort.
No, we can't bring more people on.
Right.
So.
Are we going to listen to what you and John are going to tell us
Okay.
about what's coming up next?
Okay.
That could be random.
Yeah, it will be. That's you, John.
Thanks for joining me, Tanya.
No problem.
So, future.
Yeah.
It's been a tough year for many, many reasons, as we've discussed today. And you and I know that this place is built for one thing and one thing only. Like, we're 100 miles an hour. And anyways, it's tough. But it's tough because we don't feel that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing here. But with that in mind, what is our plan moving forward for next year? I think we've got some good plans.
We do have some good plans. Super loud over here. Quieter over there. Next summer, as we said, the theme is under construction. So we are planning for summer camp, we're praying towards summer camp, and we are hoping for summer camp. And so we have a number of different scenarios on how that can happen. And so I guess practically thinking, we have, with the new cabin circle, we sort of have 3 cabin circles, actually goes to 4 with the fort.
5 with this.
5 with this. Staff will be in here. Yeah. So the idea that we kind of have is to create 4, 5 little camps within our big camp. SABC has always been a little camp at heart, and I think even as we have grown and we've added on and we've seen the desire for more and more kids to be at camp, that little camp, that desire for one-on-one relationships and knowing every camper's name and telling them about Jesus hasn't changed. It's been there from the beginning. And so the idea with what this gives us is to create these small little pods of camp, hoping that the numbers will allow for that, but potentially 50 sort of in each circle, and they would run as a little camp in our big camp, and we would move them around, managing those regulations and distancings, but allowing us to just pour into the lives of campers and staff in kind of a new way. The mission and vision is all about campers, but it's also about staff, and that was a really huge piece that we missed out on this year, and that was really hard. So a big part of that is figuring out different ways that we can connect with staff in particular. We kind of get what it is and how we can figure out how to connect with campers. Camp for You was a great proof of that we could figure that out. Staff was a missing piece, and we really felt that. The 8 that were able to come and be the Fort cohort, they experienced a very unique, I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but a unique opportunity to gather, and so that gives us insight and ideas on how to connect with staff. We've talked about doing a podcast and connecting with staff in that way, and so that's sort of still trying to figure that out as we tick off some of these other events this fall. And what that also taught us straight off the top was that the Fort works great for a cohort, for a group of people to kind of live together in a safe way under the COVID regulations. And so right now, hopefully a lot of you guys know we have what we're calling a flex program over there right now. And so Will and Amy, who would have handed you all of your papers that walked in, when you walked in, the papers didn't walk in. What it is, it's a community that is for students that are doing their online universities. So there's students there from the University of Saskatchewan, I believe the U of A, U of C, Lethbridge, and they're doing their own online schooling, but they're living in community. And their purpose is to create opportunities for students to meet God, growing closer in their relationship to Him, knowing who He is and who they are in Him, creating fun activities, living intentionally, and growing and learning while doing their online schooling that by the university is going to online. They were left at home and not necessarily, which is a nice place to be, but missing out on that community that is such a pivotal part of being a young adult. And so that's sort of moving forward. We're going to have another semester of that after Christmas. And so, yeah, and as you heard from Jordan and Charlie already, we're going to continue to see how to do those things. And we're excited for what camp can look like. And from that plan, we can flex to a number of different ways. So, yeah.
So there's positive. I mean, there are huge challenges. I mean, you lose a summer of connection with your staff. Staff, each summer is a building block to the next year, and you train and they move and they, I mean, we lost that. To lose it again, I mean, we don't even want to think about that. But these are some challenges that we're thinking of. And whoever thought about putting 10 cabins down there and 8 cabins over there and 6 cabins over there and 7 cabins at the fort, I don't know. There's not really any rhyme for that. But for us to use those as different cohorts, they're nice little spaces. And so you envision like us having a chapel of 50 here, and then they go out through those doors, and then the next people come in and you do your chapel again. And so that's kind of the idea and the framework that we're thinking about doing,
Yeah.
right?
So kind of creating little camps in each one
Yeah.
and filtering through the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we here or are we here?
Where would you like to be? Yeah, I think you mentioned that there's challenges,
Yeah.
and it's going to be hard. And even just like last night, there was new regulations. And so last night we were like, can we still do this? Everyone's reading through the regulations and figuring that out. And so I learned something about myself through this. I like to be sure of what I am saying. And that's not at all obvious at all. I pretty much shoot myself in the foot on the regular. But when I'm speaking to my staff or when I'm like calling us up to something, I like to be sure and to be able to tell my staff, tell our staff and our campers and our families, this is what we get to do. And then, so I found myself really struggling with this constant of just being like, I want to tell you this is what we get to do. And so as we walk this all out together, we're going to be like, hey, this is what we hope to do. This is the plan I know today. And today's plan, what I know is that it will probably change tomorrow. And so we are hoping to look at these challenges and all of the changes that are coming and band together and continue to shift and to figure it out. And so again, we have an amazing team, program team, and this plan with the different cabin circles also can flex. So if we had to, we couldn't have non-cohorted numbers, we could do family groups in each of those. So we could shift to a summer of family camps, and we can get excited about that. And having families come together and focus on the gospel for a week together. We can get excited about those things. And we know how to do Camp for You, and we can do it even better next year if that's what we get to do.
So that's great. I'm going to shift a little bit because I like going forward, but we learn from the past. And what did this summer show us about God's faithfulness in spite of our reality of COVID and canceled camps?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think it helps keep us focused on the Bible. Characters in the Bible and stories in the Bible often look back as they look forward, and so I think that's a really great practice for us. As we kind of came through this summer, God really impressed upon me the story of the loaves and fishes, and it's throughout the Gospels. And it's this idea that his disciples were running around trying to solve a problem that was beyond themselves. And they came back to Jesus. You know, I don't think that fish was fresh. Just saying. It'd been in a kid's pocket, probably. It was probably a warm sardine. And came to Jesus with just pittance and just the smallest thing. What they had looked out on that hillside at something that was huge and daunting and unfigure-outable on their behalf. And they brought this little offering. And when Jesus says, he doesn't say, hey, so what's the other hill doing? Hey, what do you think we should do? Hey, what else do you have? He just simply said, what do you have? And I picture those disciples, and they just looked down at their hands, and this was all that they had. And they just gave it to Jesus. That's what they did. They didn't make excuses. They didn't come up with 9 other things that they could probably try to find. They just simply said, this is what we have. And so when we looked around, we told you a bunch of the story, but when we looked around, can't look at those two right now. When we looked around this spring, when I looked around, I do not cry pretty, turn the cameras off. And I looked at that team, and I looked at Stephen, and I looked at this camera gear, and we looked at what we had. We had this place. We have a heart for the gospel. We have thousands of kids who come to camp every summer, and they want to be here. And so we said, Jesus, this is what we have. And we just gave it to him. And he produced something in and through us that was beyond our imagination. And it was amazing. And so what I love about that story, and that it reminds me of our reality, is that we give Jesus our obedience. He says, what do you have? And if you look at it, it's simple, it's small, it's just simply ourselves, and it's our obedience. And it's his abundance, or it's his capacity that creates the abundance. So it wasn't how many hours we were going to spend. That wasn't really the thing. It was simply, we have this idea, we have these people, we have this place, we have this history, God's capacity, and it created abundance. And the fun part, the next fun part of that story is that there was leftovers, baskets and baskets and baskets of leftovers on that hillside. And I don't know, God, Jesus probably dispersed it and gave it away to those that needed it. And those YouTube videos are out there. They're leftovers on YouTube, and they are available, and they are ready for the gospel to be shared over and over and over in ways that I'm never going to know, you're never going to know, and only on the side of heaven might we know what a crazy game of schmuck, or a testimony from one of the 8, or a story from the Bible, memory verses that are new or renewed in campers and families' lives. And so that was a really big piece of it for me, and that transferred also to the staff. We weren't able to bring 200 staff in, but we got 8 grants, and it didn't feel like enough. Man, I stomped my foot. I wanted more, and proverbially, and did it in real life too. But the 8 that got to come and be a part of the Fort cohort had an extraordinary, unique, intentional summer together, working on things that we didn't think we'd have time to talk about even in a normal summer. They had, you can talk to Will or Amy at any point in time. They were both here this summer and have stayed on to run the Flex program. But their summer was unique, and it was special, and it was valuable in ways that we did not expect. Again, simple idea, 8 grants, this is all that we have, and God poured into it, and the abundance that happened in those 8 lives, and what they gave to us here as a staff that were already feeling a little weary, it's God's faithfulness. He was faithful, and He's not done. He's not done with SABC and all of us. So, yeah.
Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate that very much. These are the people I get to work with. It's pretty cool. Ted, we've got a Q&A here. I'm not sure how much. Is a time where you guys can ask some questions. They have a wrap. Yeah. No, you're allowed to have the final word, so why don't you do the wrap, and then he'll have the final word.
That was like 2 summers ago.
Well, that
was
awesome! Man, it was so fun to be able to do this with you all again. It felt like Camp for You in the summer with everybody, and it kind of also feels like a Friday. We tried to give a prize away and all the things. So what do we normally do
on a Friday?
Yeah.
Well, we usually give a prize away, but we already dealt with that.
We're gonna get a prize.
Right, we are. Yeah. So thanks for that.
We actually usually have popsicles, and
I don't have a popsicle. Sorry, guys.
But so I guess it kind of feels more like our last episode of Camp for You in the summer. This summer has not looked like anything that we had anticipated, but we are very glad and thankful for what God has done during this time. Mm-hmm. And our theme, once again, has been Set Your Sights, and we love to remind that of you guys and of us to continue to do this even though the summer and all that stuff's coming to an end.
Yeah,
and the meeting's coming to an end.
And we also end off our Friday afternoon videos with a highlight video, which we won't be sharing right now. We'll be sharing it after Ted has the final word. But you don't have to stay and watch all of it. It's like a 13-minute video, and we want to feed you guys lunch, so
it'll just run as sort of like just a send out if you see kids that you were a part of it. So that'll run at the very end.
And watch us eat our popsicles.
We often Jordan usually steals my line and
whatever. She's stole mine 3 times.
3 times today already. So we're always interrupting each other and taking each other over each other's lines. But I think I just want to say thanks to these guys for just this amazing summer and sharing it with you guys. And so with all that, we do have to give the last word to Ted. So
it's written
that's
in the
you.
minutes.
It's what it said that we have to give it to you. So that's all. When we're done, we will roll film.
Oh, that was your
I'm
setup.
waiting for after Ted.
Oh, she's going to do that later.
You can recognize these fine, fine leaders. You applaud.
We're getting off.
I was like, recognize her right here.
I was like,
Dave Coots, I'm going to give you the final word when you pray in a few minutes. You can use Doug's microphone. You are probably as encouraged as I by at least two of the pieces of information that you heard. One of them was Doug's report of what God has done. And secondly, Tanya's words of encouragement from the Bible. I don't want to detract from what she said. I was mostly encouraged because I have too much human fear about the next year. I got to be honest, when I look at the numbers, it's scary for me. I don't know how we're going to get to $1.5 million in revenue. But her words are an encouragement to me, and I'm going to let them reverberate as I meditate on the fact that God provides and has provided. I am so grateful that we have the leadership team that we have. Thank you all for coming. And Dave, will you pray for us and give thanks to God as well for the food and the fellowship that we're going to experience from too far away?
Well, this meeting's been altogether different from the many, many annual meetings that I've attended. And, you know, it's been a blessing. God is good. And I don't know, like our treasurer, every year he comes up with probably the best and blessed budget and financial statement. And Doug, I just want to thank you personally. You've been a blessing to this camp for so many years, and I don't know what we'd do without you, but God has used you to bless us. And I just want to say thanks to our staff. It's been mentioned before, but it's blessing after blessing after blessing. And just as Ted said, they think outside the box and they come up with these ideas. And like Tanya, you know, I knew Tanya when she was this high. And man, what a blessing to Gunther and Diane and to Nolly and I to see, you know, our youth kids coming up and serving in this ministry. So, Ted, I think we can be really thankful. Thankful for the board that we have. They see the vision. They see the history of the camp, and yet they see the long-term vision and our mission statement. And that's so important. So we're blessed by our staff, and let's just pray together and give thanks. Father, we do thank you for this time together. We've been blessed again today by just the testimonies, what we've heard about this last summer. I mean, thousands and thousands of hits that were just ministered out there, and a blessing to so many families and so many kids. And that was our statement, that we wanted to proclaim the gospel to as many young people as we can, and certainly for families. So, Father, you've blessed in that area this summer too, and we're just thankful for the staff that put this all together. Thank you for Dave's Meals, and as we anticipate sharing a meal together through Dave's ministry here, he's blessed the camp too. And thank you for all the staff that have worked in the kitchen, just all the volunteers that have helped out in this way. And as, Father, we share this meal together and share our conversation, we would ask that you would bless our time together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Here we go, ready?